Arsenal are still on top, Man City are right behind them, and Newcastle might have the best defensive midfielder in the league. These are the Premier League Week 9 talking points. Let's get started. Last week we asked if Arsenal were for real, and each passing game brings us closer to the already obvious answer. Yes they are. Red-on-red crime took place on Sunday as Arsenal beat Liverpool 3-2 in a candidate for game of the season. The Gunners got off to the best start possible, literally scoring in the first minute of the game. But this time it wasn't Gabriel Jesus. It was Gabriel Martinelli running in behind Trent Alexander-Arnold for a calm finish. Now we can talk about Trent in a later video, and trust me we will. But let's show some love to Martinelli for a second because I think it's overdue. While Jesus has been Arsenal's signing of the season, his Brazilian teammate's role in the squad is equally as important. In 9 league games so far, Martinelli has registered 4 goals and 2 assists from the left wing position. He's averaging 0.69 goals and assists per 90, which puts him third on the team amongst consistent starters, only behind Jesus and Saka. He's just 2 goals away from tying his entire goal tally from last season, and we still have 29 games to go. What makes Arsenal such an enjoyable team to watch, especially for the neutral, is being able to see these young players grow right in front of your eyes. Arsenal have the youngest team in the league with an average age of 23.7. while also being the only team in the top half of the table with an average age below 26. Nottingham Forest, Southampton, and Wolves all have young players too, but they're fighting relegation. So it's not just enough to have young players in the squad. You need young players who exhibit traits well beyond their age, and that brings us to Bukayo Saka. Saka carries these qualities. He possesses the energy of a rambunctious child, but the bravery of a responsible man, the tenacity of a teenager while also having the composure of a veteran. To suffer the abuse he did at the end of Euro 2020 was a disgrace to the sport, but that whole incident left most of us with an affinity towards him that'll likely remain indefinitely. As it pertains to Sunday, his brace against Liverpool won Arsenal the game, erasing Nunez and Firmino's efforts to salvage a point. That puts Saka at 3 goals and 4 assists from the right mid position this season. Arteta trusts this squad with his career, and they've given him that faith right back. Arsenal are currently still top of the league, winning 8 of their first 9 games, tying their best start to a season since 2007 and 2004. The club is on its way up, a stark comparison to Liverpool, who we can at this point say is suffering a serious decline. Trent was subbed off at halftime after an ankle injury, but should have been taken off the field regardless after another awful defensive performance. Liverpool have yet to win a single game away from home this season, the first time that's happened since 2011 when their manager was Roy Hodgson. Yikes. The Reds are in 10th place with 10 points after 8 games and will somehow look to get their season back on track next week. The only problem is their next opponent is the only team looking strong enough to take over Arsenal. Man City slaughtered Southampton on Saturday as expected, beating them 4-0. Haaland scored again, bringing him to an absolutely ridiculous stat line for the season. That's 15 goals and 3 assists in 9 games, putting him at 2.16 goals and assists per 90. For context, he's the only player to even reach 2 goals and assists per 90 in the entire league. Firmino, Foden, and De Bruyne have respectable numbers also, but they play less minutes. The closest true comparison we have to Haaland would be Harry Kane and Gabriel Jesus, playing comparable minutes in similar positions, and Haaland still blows them out the water. Man City actually blow everyone out the water if we're talking numbers. They have 33 goals so far this season. That's 10 more than second highest scoring team Arsenal, who are just 1 point above them on the table. They have the same number of goals as Tottenham and Chelsea combined. Oh, and they're also maintaining the league's best defense at the same damn time, only conceding 9 goals in the process. The scariest part is that this team's main focus isn't even winning the Premier League, it's winning the Champions League. And while they signed Haaland to take them to that next level, it's actually one of their academy products that's quietly been having one of his best seasons so far. Phil Foden is cementing himself as not only one of the Premier League's best young players, but one of their best players in general, full stop. Real quick, in the comment section below, let me know who your favorite young footballer is, and by young, let's say under 23. Back to the video. In 9 games so far, Foden scored a total of 6 times and assisted 3. He had 9 goals last season and 9 goals the year before that, and by the looks of it will probably shatter those numbers by Christmas. And honestly, none of this comes as a surprise. City are a perfectly oiled machine with multiple turning parts. They've spent over a decade competing for and dominating the Premier League. They're the blueprint for how to turn oil money into football trophies. And speaking of oil money, let's talk about Newcastle. The Magpies mauled Brentford 5-1 on Saturday, making it their 3rd game this season where they scored at least 3 goals, and their 2nd in a row with at least 4. Miguel Almiron finally looks like a Premier League footballer. Alan Saint-Maximin keeps giving us insane YouTube clips, and Joelinton has continued his transformation from awful striker to one of the most well-rounded midfielders in the league. But the player that everyone is talking about from Newcastle is the other half of the Brazilian midfield partnership, Bruno Guimaraes. The defensive midfielder possesses traits that can't help but announce themselves all across the pitch. He's calm and composed on the ball, destructive in his defensive actions, and even has an eye for goal. And we have the numbers to prove it. Firstly, there's his passing. In the last 365 days, Bruno ranks in the 97th percentile for through balls and passes under pressure per 90. He also hits the 98th percentile in passes into the penalty area, the evidence of a decisive passer. Then there's what Brazilians are most known for, their ability on the ball and in possession. He's in the 97th percentile for total ball carrying distance, 92nd in progressive carries, and 90th in both attempted and completed dribbles per 90. Jogo bonito indeed. And we saved his most impressive work for last, his defensive actions. Bruno sits in the 99th percentile for tackles attempted and tackles won, 95th in successful pressures, and 93rd in pressures per 90 overall. He's been an absolute monster since arriving in Newcastle, and he seems to have shaken off that hamstring injury that had him sidelined in September. Just a year ago, we were talking about Newcastle potentially being relegated. Now here we are, 9 weeks in, analyzing a team that find themselves in the top 6. It's been a remarkable turnaround for the club, and Bruno is set to be a part of its promising future, if and only if Newcastle can keep him. And that's all I got for today, boys. As always, I'm Andy, first team all Sideline. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and smash that like button. Till next time, boys.